Good morning everyone. Today me and my group are going to present a panel discussion on the topic genetically modified crops through the European Union's approach. So the genetically modified crops are one of the most debatable topic, as some people think that it is useful for the global food production and satisfy its need, but some of the people think that it is concerning for the human health. European Union are known as the having very strict laws regarding GM crops. So this discussion will be more interesting. And now we are going to dive into the genetically modified crops through economically, scientifically, policy, business, and customer perfection also. So let's dive into it.
So let me introduce the panel to you all. We have Sanika. She believes GM crops can be useful and that the EU should be more open towards them. We have Aryan, who supports the EU's cautious approach and thinks Europe is right to be careful. We have Tanuj, our scientist from Chennai, who will explain the facts clearly. We have Omkar, who represents the business and industry side. We have Tanvi, our policy expert, who knows that EU's laws and regulations well. We have Nishan, who is a consumer, so all questions will be answered by him. And we have Tanushka, who will wrap up the summary. So let's get into the discussion and make sure that everyone understands the basics. So Tanuj, what is the GM crop?
So I'll explain you. So every living organism, whether it is tomato, cow or human, has a DNA. DNA is what? DNA is an instruction manual for organism which tells them how to grow and function. Now, what human did is in simple words, GM crops are the plants whose genetics or DNA is a biotechnologically changed to make it more useful, like fast growing or resistant for a pest. So we have a good example of a BET cotton from India. What I'm explaining that. So BET cotton, what scientists did, they add a genetic from another organism which protect the BET cotton from a harmful insect. Later on, so many farmers use that, and then the use of pesticide also decreases.
So it's like giving the plant a small upgrade.
Nice, good.
Okay, my first question is that if I eat the GM crop, does it affect my body or my DNA?
Not at all. When we consume a food, our digestive system break down that RNA, that DNA into small molecules, and later on that doesn't affect our body DNA at all. Simple.
That was I was worried about.
Don't worry.
So as Aryan explained, the EU is being very strict about GM crops. So then can you explain the EU's position?
Of course, the EU uses what is called as precautionary principles. This means if there is any doubt whether or not something is safe, you don't approve it unless and until you are sure. In practice, most of the GM crops are not allowed to be grown in EU. So a small number is approved for import, mainly for animal feed. But commercial farming of GM crops is almost completely banned in EU.
So Europe is saying you would rather be safe than sorry.
Exactly, and most EU citizens standard business rule.
Okay. So Sanika, do you think EU is approach is good?
Yes. I respect the EU's caution, but it is gone too far. The world is changing. Climate changes are making farming more hard. More droughts, more floods, unpredictable seasons. GM crops help European farmers deal with this problem. The EU is missing out on tools that can actually help the farmers.
As from business perspective, Europe is falling behind as many countries such as USA, Brazil, Argentina are using GM technology widely. Their farmers are taking lower cost and yielding higher yields. European farmers are competing with them, but with the less technology, they can't compete totally with them. That's what keeps the European agriculture as a disadvantage.
I'd like to add one thing. The science does not support the EU level of restrictions. Many world organizations and individual studies also conduct that recent genetically modified crops are safe to consume for human health. But the EU own research is running from last 25 years that cost 300 million euros, still not able to what is still not able to found any advice that harmful that the GM are harmful for our health.
Okay, that was my question. So are you, do you think they use that to be strict?
Yes, I think it.
Can you make it more?
Yeah. So Europe has a very rich farming tradition and ecosystem, also the crops. But once you release the GM crops in the open fields, the GM crops could spread, their DNA could spread into other fields and wild plants. So and it could not be taken again. So like backward. So if European farmers start depending on these seeds, Europe has the right to protect its biodiversity. Also, there is a problem of corporate control. Like these seeds, GM seeds, are controlled by many large companies, and farmers has to be dependent upon them. They lose their independence. So because of this, they have to be dependent, and their power of farmers will be gone, which is not good. They have to become independent. They become dependent on the corporation that is not serious and food risk.
And also, European consumers have clearly said no to that they don't want GM food. Multiple surveys even show that the citizens are against GM crops. In a democracy like this, all of this matters. This shows us that EU is not just following the bureaucracy, but also listening to their people.
I want to ask some practical. If I go to supermarket now, how do I know if it has genetically modified ingredients?
In the EU, any food with more than 0.9% GM content, it is displayed on the label. So if it contains GM ingredients above that level, the label will clearly state it. This is one area where Europe is. Many countries, including the US, do not have such strict labeling rules.
That's good to know. I can choose it.
But here's the problem. When the label says GM, many consumers avoid it. Even if the product is perfectly safe, people associate the term with something dangerous. But this creates a fear without a reason. And labels are important, but they need to come with a proper education, not just a warning. And people should see the label properly and research it about before the label.
But the decision should be made.
And everyone here agrees on that. Consumers have the right to know and to choose.
There is a new technology called CRISPR. Are you do you know about it?
Yes, I know. CRISPR over here is clustered regulatory interface short palindromic repeat. So it is a new technology which we
Yeah, that's the interesting part. CRISPR is a new tool that edit a plant's own genes. Like in traditional, they don't take the genes from another species. In 2023, the European Union companies proposed a new rule that would make it easier to approach the CRISPR crops. This suggests that European Union is slowly recognizing that not all the genetic technology is the same. It is a small but important shift in the policy of a European Union.
But we also need to be careful with the space. It does not mean that it is different or it is different method. So we cannot should skip the proper testing, and independent monitoring and safety checks must apply.
That's the EU's position. More openness to CRISPR, but with proper regulation. It's a cautious step forward and not a free pass.
You are almost at the end. Kanushka, can you bring it all together for us?
Yes, thank you for this. I have noted down everything. So to bring together what today's discussion told us that European Union's approach to GM crops is not black or white. On one hand, Europe has done something important. It said that public trust and consumer safety matter more than speed. It has made sure that people know what they are eating through their food. That is something worth respecting.
That's a very good opinion.
Exactly. On the other hand, the world is changing. Climate change, food security, new technologies like CRISPR are pushing Europe to rethink about their position. The EU does not need to abandon caution, but it needs to make sure the rules are based on current science and not old fears. The best path forward for the EU is itself that it believes in evidence-based decisions, strong regulations, and transparency for consumers. That is the European. And if done right, it can be the model for the rest of the world.
Thank you, Kanushka. EU story tells us that technology and safety
Thanks.